Hey, Dr. Mike here. Do you think you have leaky gut? Well, there's a simple test to find out. Stay tuned to learn about it with our special guest, Dr. Robert Silverman.
You're listening to Live Foreverish, a show dedicated to helping you live just a little longer. Here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Crystal Gossard.
All right, welcome to Live Foreverish. A fantastic show today, Dr. Crystal. We titled it "Leaky Gut: Finding the Cause and Solutions." Right?
Yes.
You can't. You go on Google. So many people have number one gut issues, right? I mean, so people are asking about probiotics. They're asking about protein, and does that help? Carnosine is a big one, right?
Yes.
And leaky gut always seems to be somewhere in that conversation.
Yes, it comes up, and I can remember, 15 years ago, if you mentioned leaky gut, people thought that you were a quack.
I kind of rolled my eyes too. Back then, that's when I started in integrative stuff. You know,
Right?
I came from the MD side, and leaky gut was one of those things where I'm like, what is this place I came to talking about?
Right. But now we know.
Right.
There's something to it, and there are ways to identify if it's the root problem.
Yeah, and we got tests for that now.
Yes.
Matter of fact, we got an expert on today about this kind of testing for leaky gut. It's Dr. Robert Silverman. He is a chiropractic doctor, clinical nutritionist, national and international speaker. He's author of Amazon's bestseller Immune Reboot. He's also the founder and CEO of Westchester Integrative Health Center. He has 25 years of clinical experience, and he is our expert today on health, wellness, and specifically leaky gut. Dr. Silverman, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm real stoked to talk about leaky gut.
We like that. Great. We love it when we have guests that are up and ready to go. This is going to be good stuff. So let's first kind of lay out for the audience kind of the background story, right? Everything has a backstory, right? So let's start. Simple question. Why are we so focused on gut health? Why are so many people, Dr. Rob, on Google searching about gut health stuff? What do you think's going on?
For me, the gut is the epicenter of your health. 80% of your immune cells are in your gut. It's where your macro foods, micro nutrients, minerals, and vitamins are absorbed. You know, Hippocrates said about 2,500 years ago, all disease begins in the gut. Dr. Alessio Fasano, about 20 years ago, said all disease begins in the leaky gut. 90% of the scientific literature describing the microbiome in the gut has actually been published in the last 5 years. We are made up of 90% of bacteria, factoid. About 3/4 of the patient population or the populace out there has a gut problem right now. So when patients come in, I ask them, do you have the guts to be healthy? What have you done for your guts lately?
Yeah. I'll tell you, Dr. Crystal and I, real quick before you jump in, Dr. Crystal, we've said this before, that you're only as healthy as your gut.
That's our saying.
And even as a clinician, Dr. Silverman, when people come in with, it doesn't matter what they come in with, you got to talk about their gut, because if I want to give them a medicine, a supplement, whatever, if their gut's not working, they're not going to benefit from anything I'm trying to do at the end of the day, right?
I agree. If your gut isn't healthy, it's just going to go through, and that really leads us to what is the gut and, what does it do? When we talk about the gut, we talk about the small and the large intestine. And don't worry, we're not going to get into an anatomy course. But it has been stated that the first time the outside world meets the inside world is when something gets absorbed through the small intestine in a gut into the bloodstream. Our gut, our digestive system, is actually our first line of defense. So the metaphor I like to use is a screen door. We all have a screen door. Now, when a screen door is in pristine condition, things pass that are supposed to pass and things that aren't supposed to pass are blocked. When there's holes in the screen door, like a leaky gut, there are things that pass that shouldn't, like undigested large food particles, bacteria, viruses, and pathogens, and they get into your bloodstream, your body responds, and it cascades through your whole body. So once again, the gut for me is the epicenter of your health.
Yes. So, and that takes us into this concept of leaky gut. And is it the same as intestinal permeability? Because I know when you look into the research, maybe you're searching PubMed, are we just saying the same thing as leaky gut, just kind of I guess a toned down version, common name for intestinal permeability?
Without question, they are synonymous. So leaky, increased intestinal permeability. So on a street corner where I grew up in New York, I say you got leaky gut. When I talk to people like you, we have increased intestinal permeability. It is the same thing. The gut is too permeable and things are passing that shouldn't. And we all know if our front door or back door is open too much, things get in that shouldn't. That's leaky gut. That's increased intestinal permeability. And I believe it's one of the hidden causes for many of our health conditions today.
Yeah. I love the screen door analogy. I think that's spot on, right? If you have a bunch of holes in your screen, you get mosquitoes in your house down here in the South, and we don't like that.
Right.
Causes a lot of irritation. That's really a good analogy. So tell us then, again, the problem seems to be so prevalent today. Why today? Like, why? You just mentioned all this research in the past 5 years. That's coming from the fact that people are going to the hospital. They're going to their doctors with gut issues. What are we exposed to? What's triggering all this?
Some of the triggers of increased gut intestinal permeability or leaky gut, number one would be antibiotics. Now, I'm not anti-antibiotics by any way, shape, or form, but antibiotics are a nuclear weapon to your gut. They blow everything up. They actually damage all the live bacteria in your gut. And that can really lead you down a slippery slope towards that leaky gut. Acid blocking drugs like PPIs, they're supposed to be taken for 4 to 6 weeks. They're taken for months and years.
Years. I know.
There you go. Years. They're over the counter. They're not regulated when they're over the counter. It poses a problem. Those two things as a starting point are so deleterious to everybody's health. Then when you add in NSAIDs, non-steroid anti-inflammatories, Aleve, Advil, ibuprofen, they do decrease pain, but they impair healing. And how do they impair healing? They damage the gut and its integrity. You got heavy metal exposure, environmental toxins, cesarean bursts, food sensitivities. I believe that food sensitivities are one of the hidden causes for chronic inflammatory conditions. And I'm a big believer on every patient walking in my office to get a food sensitivity because I want to test and not guess to understand why that patient has increased inflammation.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think, and when you think about all of the triggers or all of the things that we are exposed to on a regular basis, I think the body could potentially heal the gut, but we're not eating the foods that's compounding the problem that, okay, we have these triggers and now you're not eating the fiber and the
good stuff,
colorful fruit and vegetables that would naturally help us with this. So
we called, speaking of like the food sensitivities, which I agree, doctor. So I think that's a big trigger. We called them the mystery symptoms. So many people go into their doctors with all this GI related stuff, maybe even headaches, skin issues, and their doctors don't know what's going on. And so we ask people, think about your gut. What are you putting in your system? Is that causing the problem?
Right. So what in your clinical experience, what are some of the symptoms that people who are dealing with leaky gut, what can they say, you know what, this might be leaky gut? What are some of those symptoms?
Well, that's a great question. So some of the symptoms are issues affecting digestion and overall health, irritable bowel disease or irritable bowel syndrome, celiac disease, where you're responding to an allergic reaction to gluten proteins, autoimmune conditions, neurodegenerative disease. Here's some of the easy ones. Do you get gas and bloating after you eat? Do you get brain fog about 40 minutes after you eat? If you do, you probably have leaky gut. Fatigue, dysfunctional immune system, joint pain. I'm a chiropractor. There's a gut to joint axis. There's a gut to spine axis. And just like you said, I'm going to piggyback on your theme, widespread inflammation. And the reason that food sensitivities are that mystery that you talked about, because from the time from ingestion to the time the symptomology shows itself, there's a 72-hour lag. That being said, how am I as a practitioner supposed to know which food, and how are you as the patient supposed to know which food is lighting you up? Test, but don't guess.
And that it's a two-way street. the sensitivities are leading to the gut issues, the leaky guts, leading back to
Yeah.
more of those food sensitivities. So the question is, how do you get out of this revolving door?
Yeah. Well, let's obviously that's what people want, right? At the end of the day, we're going to talk about a way to test for this.
Right.
At the end of the day, what else, if it is positive, it looks like you have some permeability issues, what can you actually do? But let's talk about this test, right? So our sponsor, Dr. Silverman Life Extension, they sponsor the Live Foreverish podcast. They have I'm going to make sure I'm saying this right, gut barrier panel finger stick test. Is that's the whole name, right? Yeah. So this is a great way of testing what you had mentioned is that permeability issue, that leaky gut. So let's start there. Tell us what you know about this test and what is it measuring? What are some of those things that somebody will see when they get the results?
Well, it's measuring. It's a great reveal because it's testing for specific things going on inside the integrity of the gut. Number one, it's testing for something called candida, which is yeast. We all have yeast, sorry to say, in our gut. It's the overexpression of yeast, candida, that can lead us down a slippery slope of failing health. Interestingly enough, yeast communicates with our immune system, and yeast and overgrowth mimics something called IBD. It also tests for zonulin. Zonulin is a protein enzyme that's released when your tight junctions fall apart. Let me give you something. Here's one epithelial cell. Here's another. They're put together in your gut lining. That is your tight junction. When zonulin is increased, it pulls a little apart your tight junctions in your gut, but it still stays together. That is detrimental to your overall gut epithelial health. However, you could test for the next thing on the marker called zonulin. That's actually a structural failure. So zonulin is the protein enzyme that pulls. Occludin is the breaking of the structure. And the new ad just came out, something called LPS, lipopolysaccharide. It's an endotoxin. It holds gram-negative bacteria on the inside of the gut wall. So when your gut is compromised, this pathogenic gut bacteria is floating around, and LPS, which is an endotoxin, is damaging all systems. The expression of LPS has shown to increase the incidence of various diseases exponentially. Now, the test does so by testing against specific antibodies and what we call the innate and immune system. These antibodies are produced. That means your body's in an inflammatory state, and it gets reconfirmed because you have a test against something called C3D. Not trying to get too technical, that's the innate immune system. So this test is unique in that it sees how a food that you ingest generates inflammation in both sets of your immune system or both parts of your immune system, which is a rarity. That being said, if you light that up, you need to remove that food for a period of time and tend to it.
Wow. So, and just to maybe explain to our listeners about these antibodies and correct me and make sure I have this right in my head, because I'm always trying to figure it out. If, let's say, you have candida, because we know it's there all the time, if that candida is now getting into your blood where we can test it with that finger stick, that's showing that maybe you have the leaky gut, because you shouldn't have, I guess, the amounts of candida that's in the blood. And now the immune system is saying, hey, candida, you're not supposed to be here. So when we're testing those antibodies, that's kind of what we're testing are the antibodies that are mounting up a response to the candida that's slipping through that gut barrier.
Yes.
Is that kind of how to look at it?
That's a great way to look at it. We're producing antibodies, and everybody thinks producing antibodies is a good thing. It's not necessarily it's a good thing because you're producing antibodies to a foreigner, somebody who shouldn't be there. But the test is unique because it's also testing for inflammation. And to take it one step further with the candida, if you have an elevation of candida, you have a lack of communication or health communication with your immune system. The body's all interconnected. So we talk about longevity now, and we talk about turning switches on longevity and buttons. I believe the master switch to health and longevity is a robust immune system. This test is checking your immune system as well.
Yeah, it's pretty unique, right? It's a finger stick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this?
Easy.
I assume it's at home. They
At home.
They send it home. They do the stick.
Mm-hmm.
Not hard to do. People, if you're interested in this, it doesn't hurt. I've done finger. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, right? It's not like, it's just a boop, little prick. You get a little blood. Again, Life Extension, our sponsor, offers that gut barrier panel finger stick test. You can check it out at lifeextension.com/gut test. So let's wrap all this up, Dr. Silverman. So we know gut health's a big issue. We know permeability, leaky gut, same thing, synonymous, is really a driver of a lot of the issues coming from food sensitivities and some other triggers. We got a great way to test for that. But again, at the end of the day, the testing's great. And it'll help people to know if they need to worry about this or not, right? But they want answers.
Yeah.
They want solutions. So I don't know, put you on the spot. Give us your top 4 nutrients that people should start on right away if they're having some gut issues.
Top 4 nutrients, great question. Number 1, pre and probiotics. A prebiotic feeds the probiotic to allow for live, quality, beneficial bacteria in your gut ecosystem. Remember, your gut's like a neighborhood. We want the good guys, not the bad guys. We want to drive down the crime, which is, lack of health.
I like that. Can I steal that phrase?
You can have that. Remember, here's one for you. Your digestive tract goes from your gums to your bum. So adding into those supplements, I'm a glutamine person. I think glutamine is an excellent add. It's the most abundant amino acid in the body, helps the mucosal lining in your gut to heal. I'm also a big believer of the next 2 supplements, omega-3 fatty acids. I don't think you can do without. They're anticoagulants and not blood thinners. And vitamin D3 with K2. Your body, virtually every cell in your body has a receptor for vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acids. So what is your body telling you? Give me some of that.
Yeah. That sounds great. Yeah. You like all those.
Oh, hey, they are all high on my list, Dr. Mike.
Yeah. Dr. Crystal is our guinea pig. She pretty much anything we talk about, she tries and lets us know how things are going. But we like that list. You were listening to Dr. Robert Silverman. He is the best-selling author of Immune Reboot. He's the founder and CEO of Westchester Integrative Health Center. Dr. Silverman, if somebody wanted to learn a little bit more about you, do you have a website or anything like that they can go to?
Absolutely. It's drrobertsilverman.com, and they can follow me on Facebook, Instagram at drrobertsilverman.com.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for coming on. Great job.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for doing such a good job. Keep up with the message. Remember, what you do for yourself dies with you. What you do for others, especially in health, lives forever.
That's really awesome. Again, thanks for coming on. Don't forget, you can go to liveforeverish.com. We got a ton of podcasts there where you can download, like, share, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a show. Get ready. Here we go, Dr. Chris. So we call it the 1-2 punch. You didn't punch. She gave up punching because I make fun of her every time. That's liveforeverish.com. I'm Dr. Mike. Thanks for listening.